Committee. I'm Councilmember Weezer. I've been joined by Councilmember Blumenfield. Before we begin, call this meeting to order, we want to continue one item. That's item number 6, which will be continued to October 2nd. Item 6 will be continued to October 2nd. All right, and we could begin item number 1, and we'll have, hopefully, we'll have Mr. Price join us. Item number 1 is a report from the Director of Planning, Mr. Bertoni.
Yes, thank you, Chair Weezer, members of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning. Just a real brief report. As you know, one of the most important things facing not just Los Angeles, but California is this issue of housing, the cost of housing, and how it's been going up, and the need to really provide more housing in order to really accommodate where we're going in the future from our future population, as well as, quite frankly, our existing population. So we've set some goals as a city. One of them, the mayor said, is reaching 100,000 dwelling units by 2021 that actually has building permits issued. We have just, I think, within this last month, the planning department, if you look back since July 1st of 2013 when we established that, we're actually now at 106,000 units that we've approved from planning. So building and safety's issued permits on about, I believe, 83,000 housing units since then, and we have planning entitlements for about 106,000. If the lag time between the planning approvals and building permits, just on the aggregate or the large number over the last few years, has been about a year. So if history continues to play out, sometime next year we'll probably reach that 100,000 number for the building permits issued. So it's an important number because the goal seemed very ambitious when we first laid it out. It looks like we're on track and probably ahead of track to achieve that number. It's been very important that we just don't produce units, but we produce different types of units of varying income levels, because it's not just about where the affordability for folks. It's very much part of that continuum of homelessness, because at the end of the day, people are homeless because they can't afford to pay the rent or the mortgage to have a place to live on their own. So we're excited about where we're heading, and with progress, there's still a lot more we need to do. And we're very supportive of, appreciative of the kind of the leadership the council has taken on this issue, as well as this committee has been very much a leader in providing housing, and been a leader on making sure that we can update our community plans to do that, and to actually have forward-looking policies as it comes to housing. And this committee's really been really leading that effort. So it's paying off in terms of your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Bertoni. We will hold this item on the desk and turn to multiple item speaker cards. First on the list is Herman. This item here is for people who wish to speak on more than 2 items. Herman?
Charge the chair, man. That's right, nigga.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms, can you also move the middle chair, please, so we could see the time?
Yeah, move the chair. Get on it. Move it. Thank you. Do something for a living, man.
Herman, multiple items, 2 minutes.
So what is a public convenience? Do we need more on-site sales of alcohol beverages? Hell yeah, we do. We need more alcohol so we can suppress ourselves from tyrants of plum. And I'm in favor of Wolf and Wonder Show, oh, like the wolf would say, located at 1920-28 off of 7th Street, to continue selling more fucking alcohol. And then on item 3, by the way, which is bitch Mitch O'Farrell, who represents Jocelyn E. Duarte, the executive director on youth cohorts, an application for the voodoo doll. Ooh, voodoo, voodoo. And again, on-site, off-site sales, alcohol and beverages. The same fucking shit that disrupts meetings. When you're on alcohol, it causes you to forget, get angry, and tell people they're disrupting the meeting, show the asshole to the door. But in this case, I'm in favor of more alcohol because I, like Weezer, like to consume beverages called drink, drink, drink. Then we go to the subzone. What? A fucking subzone for variations as to size? That was the reason why we sued those stupid son of a bitches under the Woods versus Los Angeles, because we couldn't find variations to the size of a curb cut to enter our housing. And then on item 6, continued, fuck item 6 till October. But once again, do I get my general public comment now?
We do general public comment at the end of the meeting, Herman.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Our next speaker is Yvonne Michelle Autry.
No, I don't think we need more facilities, restaurants, liquor stores that are licensed to sell to sell liquor. I'm from Inglewood, and one of the reasons that I became active in local government is because in Inglewood and predominantly black and areas where there are Latin people, is that there's a proliferation and exploitation of those people because of the numerous licensed liquor stores, of course, to intoxicate the people. They suffer cirrhosis of the liver, and then that is a boon for the pharmaceutical industry, the organ industry. It's all about your money, 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 okay? We need to create a society and environment where people do not want to drink, right? This is a society that breeds, it's a pathological society. Right, just earlier I was speaking about this is a society of abuse, whether it's misogyny, experimentation of the animals, abuse of subjugation of black people, people of color, homeless people. It's ridiculous. So we don't want to anesthetize, okay? Right, I deal with fighting, these Jews, hiring the Mexican mafia to harass me, treating me again like I have said this, and I'm not going to be repetitive. I'm not the sex goddess for these immigrant, Mexican, El Salvadoran, Hispanics that have been told that I'm the reward, okay, by the Jews as they break down black women, and I hear them, they say they're under orders, para la mafia, la culpa, mano, mano. I hear it every day, calientita por placer, boca, boca. I'm sick of it.
Miss
So what I'm saying
Yvonne, you
is
got to
that
relate that to the items before the agenda. Hold our time, please. This is an opportunity for you to speak on public comment with respect to the items that you signed up to speak on. So please stay on topic. Thank you.
Okay, so for the I was speaking on the alcohol regentrification. Again, instead of exterminating us in this depopulation effort, we need more affordable housing and give more money. Again, I see veterans on the street. How can there be veterans on the street? This is ridiculous. America's not worth anything. I didn't use SHIT. I give money I don't even have, and you have all this money. Veterans with they're disabled. Where's your money going? To the proliferation of a police state. And I don't know how you live with each other yourselves.
Thank
right?
you.
Provisions for all people. This is a democracy, not an oligarchy or
Thank you.
plutocracy.
Your time is up. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alexandra Kondrake. Alexandra, you are listed as a appellant in item 11, and if you were to speak now, you're going to forfeit your time to speak on item 11. Is that okay with you?
Yes, I'm going
Okay.
to have Bill Zide,
All right.
who's here, represent me on item number 11.
Okay.
I just want to say that there is great concern in Los Feliz regarding the proposed small lot subdivision and the precedents that it's going to set. And we're particularly worried that it's going to impact the future UNESCO World Heritage designation for Frank Lloyd Wright's first commission in California, which is the Hollyhock House. And it would be a great honor for our city to have that as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And as we know, the additional height will affect the historic view shed of of Hollyhock House and could ruin its chances of being a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Also, I want to speak on item number 10. I fully support Charlie Fisher and his detailed historic analysis for the 1914 duplex, and that needs to be properly reviewed under CEQA. Thank you.
Thank you. David Salzberg. David Salzberg. Not here? Okay. We will take David Salzberg off the multiple item agenda list. And so now we will move back to, for the record, Mr. Price has joined us. We will move to item number 1 and receive and file that item. We will turn to the consent calendar. On the consent calendar, item number 2, we will approve with no objections. Item number 3, we can approve without an objection. Item number 4, we will approve without objection. Item number 5, we will adopt on consent if there are no objections. Okay. Item number 4, the representative signed up. That was on consent. Do you still wish to speak? Who was it? No, you're good. Claire? Okay. Do you wish to speak on item 4 still? Okay. Thank you. Item number 7, we will continue to October 23rd. Item number 9, we will continue to October 2nd without objection in both those items. That brings us to our first item, which is item number 8. And if we could have staff present on this item, please.
Good afternoon, council members. This is Andy Rodriguez, City Planning Department. What you have before you is a CPC recommendation from the CPC meeting on June 28th for a zone change. The city initiated zone change for property at 7662 and 7700 North Woodman. It's my understanding that Council District 6 has submitted revised findings and conditions of approval for a RES 4 zone. I just want to note that the RES 4 zone was analyzed under the existing M&D. The zone change is a zone change from M1-1 to an RSP-1 to RES 3. Our recommendation.
Okay. Ackley Padilla from Council District 6.
Good afternoon, committee members. Ackley Padilla here from Council District 6 with a request. On September 14th, 2018, a communication was added to the council file with a set of conditions and findings to approve the zone change to a RAS 4 density and a height of 58 feet as opposed to the recommendation from CPC. We're asking the Plum Committee to instead adopt that set of conditions and findings for the RAS 4 development at 58 feet in height. I believe City Attorney and Planning Department have had a chance to review. I'll defer to them for any questions, but we respectfully request the Plum Committee to instead adopt those conditions. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't have any other public speakers signed up. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay, we'll move to approve the zone change as requested by Council District 6 and adopt the revised findings and map dated September 14th, 2018 and adopt the mitigated negative declaration, mitigation measures, and mitigation monitoring program. Did I miss anything, Mr. Mejia?
No.
Okay. So, any objection to that? No. So ordered. Thank you. Thank you. Item number 10.
Item 10, Councilman, it's an appeal by Doug Haynes from the La Mirada Avenue Neighborhood Association and the Virgil Village Neighborhood Association as it relates to the approval of the vesting tract map to develop 6 small lots in CD 13.
Okay. The staff here to present on this item, please. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nuricho with City Planning. The item before you is a second-level appeal of a vesting tentative tract map for an existing lot, a small lot subdivision into 6 lots in Hollywood Community Plan and the Vermont Western Specific Plan. The Central APC denied the first-level appeal and sustained the advisory agency's decision to approve the map in April. There is a related DIR case for the demolition of an existing duplex and the construction of 6 new single-family residences in the specific plan area. The DIR case was approved by APC on appeal in April as well. The appellant contends that the existing duplex is a historical resource under CEQA and that the proposed map is inconsistent with the specific plan. In response to the appeal, staff would like to clarify that 2 historical resource assessment reports were prepared, which concluded that the duplex is not a historical resource because of significant alterations. The Planning Department's Office of Historic Resources also reviewed the reports and concurred with the conclusion that the existing duplex is not a historic resource. Therefore, the proposed project would not have a significant impact on historical resources, and a categorical exemption is the appropriate environmental clearance. In response to the second appeal point, the map approval is contingent upon the approval of the related DIR case. And as mentioned, APC approved the DIR case back in July, and their decision is final and not further appealable. Therefore, staff recommends the PLUM to deny the appeal and sustain the advisory agency's decision in approving the map. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We will turn now to public comment. We'll take up the appellants first and then the applicants. The applicants, I don't have anyone signed up to speak. Is Chris Schwanitz here? Anybody from the applicants? No one's here. Okay. We'll go to the appellants. Doug Haynes.
Good afternoon. Just for a procedural matter, for the 5 minutes before it begins, I'm going to speak, and also Charlie Fisher, who's our historic analysis expert, is going to speak during the back end of my time, and then the other appellants, Carol Citron, will speak during her 1 minute period.
Okay.
And also, I want to point out that you've been submitted a number of documents, again, so you should have letters from the Neighborhood Council, and also Richard Barron, the President of the Cultural Heritage Commission, and from esteemed architect Fran Offenheiser related to Charlie Fisher's report. So let me begin. Do you have all that material?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, do you have quorum? So can I be my time now instead of at 4:38? Because Charlie has to speak with me.
Yeah.
So
Can middle person here move a little bit to the left or right so we could see the clock? Okay. Go right ahead. You could start at 5 minutes. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much. This appeal challenges the census demolition of a significant historic resource and the Planning Department's refusal to abide by the requirements of secret review. This appeal also centers on the project applicant, who is a developer who doesn't develop much of anything. His company acquires entitlements primarily for projects that they flip. They profit through the eviction of tenants and the demolition of historic properties. The applicant purchased the project site from a prior developer who had planned a 5-unit small lot subdivision that could have retained the 1914 Craftsman duplex on the lot. This can readily be accomplished because the duplex has almost no front yard setback and is positioned at the extreme east side of the property, leaving ample room for a co-compliant driveway and development of the large backyard. The original CEQA clearance for the project was a mitigated negative declaration, yet the planning department eliminated this requirement for the applicant when he increased the project size from 5 to 6 units, deeming the larger project category exempt from CEQA review. The planning department contends that the 1914 duplex on the site is not a historic resource, that substantial evidence has not been put into the record to support the duplex as a historic resource, that the duplex was moved to the site in 1922 and is therefore disqualified from being considered a historic resource, and that historian Charlie Fisher does not meet the Secretary of Interior's professional qualification standards to analyze whether or not the duplex is a historic resource. First, the Secretary of Interior's standards have no relevance to CEQA. Second, these standards require a degree in historic preservation, which was not offered when Mr. Fisher attended college. Instead, Mr. Fisher has successfully nominated over 160 historic cultural monuments in the city of LA. He is a recognized expert in his field, as noted by Richard Barron. Under CEQA, if a legitimate question can be raised of a possible significant environmental impact, a categorical exemption cannot be used. Since the exemption essentially requires a determination that significant impacts are impossible, it cannot be relied upon unless a factual evaluation of the project could not show a possible significant impact. That is not the case here. The facts are clear. The house at 4321 Burns Avenue is clearly of historic and architectural significance and must be vetted accordingly. The board of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council voted unanimously to oppose the proposed project. The governing board described the duplex as, quote, a critical historic resource that must be incorporated with any development on the project site. The proposed small lot subdivision would demolish a significant historic resource. Substantial evidence submitted into the record supports a fair argument that the 1914 Craftsman duplex on the project site is a historic resource under CEQA. The design of the subdivision and proposed improvements will therefore cause substantial environmental damage that cannot be mitigated, and an environmental impact report is required. If you can hold the time now, Charlie will come and speak.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Charlie Fisher, 140 South Avenue 57, Highland Park. I was asked to write a report on this particular property because of the inadequacies in 2 additional reports that had been written on it previously. When I wrote the report, I addressed a number of issues, including the fact that the house is in fact historic. It's essentially unaltered. It was moved in 1921. Now, that's when the house was 7 years old. The neighborhood surrounding the house was built up after that period. There were very few buildings on that site prior to 1921 or on that neighborhood. This house is within context of that neighborhood, so that argument doesn't work. I also want to call your attention to, and I sent copies to everybody, of the DPR form that was included with that report. The report nor the DPR form does not actually show a status code on the property. Now, I have never written a report without a status code, and certainly this is the first time I can recall seeing a DPR form without a status code, at least one that was used officially. The important thing here is that this house is in fact at the level of what's called a 5P3, which means it would be eligible as a contributor to a historic district. I did analysis of the district within that report as well to show what other houses and apartments were in there, using a criteria from the beginning, the earliest building, which was 1914 as the house, up until the mid-1960s, using a 50-year benchmark. The important thing was most of the properties would have been considered historic. Few were eliminated due to alterations. In the process of this report, all of a sudden, I learned that I was not considered to be a qualified historic expert. The City of Los Angeles has been using my reports for the last decade, and they haven't had a problem with it until now, because now I am saying something they don't want to hear. So rather than address the report, they choose to shoot the messenger. Well, it doesn't work that way. So I also supplied my resume, plus Doug mentioned the 160-plus monuments. There's a list of those in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Citrone, Ed Hunt.
Good afternoon. Carol Citrone, 427 North Commonwealth Avenue. First, I'd like to point out that I find it a bit ironic that Mr. Schwanitz, the applicant, is not even here to hear our side of the case and defend his project. It's a little, it seems a little flippant, nor any of his representatives. I've lived and owned property in this area for over 30 years, and I'm disturbed that planning has granted a categorical exemption for this project, which, as you know, will destroy a 1914 Craftsman duplex. I'm going to skip. I thought I had more time. 2 historic reports were submitted by this applicant, yet there is no discussion of integrity or condition. After review, professional historian Charlie Fisher found the reports lacked criteria for their conclusions and disagreed with its findings. Mr. Fisher is a deeply respected and accomplished historian, designating over 160 monuments. He's served on countless boards, committees, and panels, and is generally regarded by the office. Really? Can I just finish this paragraph?
You can finish a sentence. I just want to be fair to everyone else. Thank you. If you want to finish something or finish a thought.
For the planning department to call his credentials into question appears reckless and dangerous attempt to ignore expert testimony, avoid proper review, and facilitate the destruction of this historic resource.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Hunt.
Edward Hunt, 4928 West Melrose Hill. I recently retired from a 50-year career as a landscape architect and architect, where much of my work involved historic preservation and restoring historic structures for my clients, and more recently for my own account. And I submitted a copy of my resume, 6 copies. This historic structure in reality has no significant alterations. Regarding the structure, I agree with noted historian Charlie Fisher that this Craftsman duplex is a very important example of this building style and type, and it should be preserved. I have reviewed the developer's plan and believe the restored duplex could easily be integrated into the small lot subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Aplacat from Council District 13.
Good afternoon, council members and staff. Amy Aplacat, Planning Deputy for Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell of the 13th District. Our office supports the City Planning Department and Area Planning Commission's position to deny the appeal. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And do you know why the applicant didn't appear today? Was anything related to your office?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, thank you. To the staff, one of the appellant's points is that the project is not in compliance with a specific plan. Can you comment on that briefly?
Sure, this is Nuri with City Planning. So the applicant filed a director level case for a project permit compliance within the specific plan and an adjustment from the specific plan to allow a height increase. But when they went to the Central Area Planning Commission, they withdrew the request for the height adjustment. So now they are in full compliance with the withdrawal of the adjustment request.
Okay, so now they are in full compliance?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the historical resource, which is not on some of the appellant's points, can you briefly comment on that again, please? Just to clarify based on anything they said verbally?
Sure, this is Nuri with City Planning again. So there were 2 historical resources assessment reports prepared for the proposed project, and they were prepared by consultants that are listed in the OHR, the Office of Historic Resources recommended list. Based on the alterations that were done to the existing duplex, specifically the additions to the rear and alterations to the window and roof, as well as the relocation of the structure from its original location. Both reports concluded that the existing duplex is not historic pursuant to CEQA, and they're also not eligible to be listed in the national, state, or local register. And there is no potential historic district within the vicinity of the project site in Survey LA or in any of the registers.
Thank you. Any other?
Mindy
Yes.
Nguyen with City Planning. I'd also like to add that while Mr. Charles Fisher has nominated historic cultural monuments in the past, that does not necessarily equate to being a qualified preparer of historic resource assessment per the Secretary of Interior Standards professional qualifications. And the Department of City Planning is not required to accept any reports that are submitted by anybody that do not meet these qualifications.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, based upon the recommendation of CD13 and the record, we'll move to deny the appeal and sustain the determination of the Central Los Angeles APC in approving the tract map and Class 32 exemption for the project. Anything else, Mr. Mejia?
Just to adopt the environmental findings.
And we'll adopt the environmental findings. Okay, that's the motion. Any objection? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Next item is item number 11.
Item 11, Councilman, this is an appeal filed by concerned citizens of Los Feliz. It relates to the approval of a vesting tract map for the subdivision of 3 lots into 18 small lots in CD4.
Okay. Staff, welcome.
This is Nuri with City Planning again. So the item before you is a second level appeal of the Class 32 categorical exemption per CEQA and a vesting tentative tract map for the merger and subdivision of 3 existing lots into 18 small lots in the Hollywood Community Plan and the Vermont Western Specific Plan. The Central APC denied the first level appeal and sustained the advisory agency's decision to approve the map in July. There is a related ZA case for the demolition of an existing theater and the construction of 18 single-family homes in the specific plan area. The ZA case was approved by APC on appeal in July as well. The appellant contends that the project will have a significant impact on Barnstable Art Park and the Hollyhock House, which are designated as historical resources in the national, state, and local registers, and nominated to be listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and that the proposed map is inconsistent with the Vermont Western Specific Plan. In response to the first appeal point, the applicant prepared an extensive view simulations to demonstrate that the project will not block the view from the park or the Hollyhock House, and the project site is not visible from the park or the Hollyhock House because of a grove of olive trees and the elevation difference between the project site and the Hollyhock House. Therefore, the proposed map would not have a significant impact on historical resources. In response to the second appeal point, the map approval is contingent upon the approval of the related ZA case, and APC approved the ZA case in July, and their decision is final and not further appealable. Lastly, the Neighborhood Council, as well as the Barnstable Art Park Foundation, are both in support of the project, and therefore staff recommends denial of the appeal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bill Zaid, representing the appellants.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Zaid. I'm speaking on behalf of the vesting tentative tract appeal at the appellant's request. We are hoping that the committee will deny the project as is and support the appeal, agreeing that the project is inconsistent with existing zoning code and CEQA requirements. For the materials that have been submitted, there are a number of key points noted in the appeal, but specifically at issue are 1, protecting Hollyhock House UNESCO's World Heritage nomination, 2, the cumulative impact of this project with all others in the immediate area, both on the nomination and this part of Hollywood Los Feliz as a whole, 3, the proposed project's inconsistency with the SNAP requirements, specifically regarding the allowable height limit. 4, the adjustments being sought that are not compliant with the Kotler decision with regard to allowable variances and the 5 findings of hardship as well as special circumstances. 5, the zoning administrator's failure to be present for the key hearings as properly required. And 6, the questionable precedent the law would set, the precedent that this would set with regard to the planning procedure violating the law and complying with the Kotler decision. First, UNESCO World Heritage Sites are divided into 2 categories, cultural and natural. Currently, there are no UNESCO cultural sites in California. California does have 2 UNESCO natural sites, the Redwoods and Yosemite, but none of these are in Los Angeles. What stands in the way of the UNESCO nomination is the cumulative effect of the projects, this project and others' height, which seriously affect the view sheds both from and to Hollyhock and Residence A. The Residence A. If all the projects are approved and move forward, they will box in Barnsdale Park, radically altering the streetscape and cityscape and very likely compromising any chance for the nomination. Second and third, the applicable building code mandates that nothing should be over 30 feet height. The real height of this proposed project along Hollywood Boulevard is actually closer to 50 feet high. Consider with this 4900 Hollywood Boulevard, already approved at 50 feet, and 4848 Hollywood Boulevard, which wants to build 101 units at 75 feet. If we allow large box structures that are 2.5 times higher than what is there now, these huge developments will radically alter the streetscape and the neighborhood as a whole, as well as violating the code. Additionally, the Berendo Street has an upward slope. The proposed project's height at the top of the hill is in fact 35 feet, but standing on Hollywood Boulevard, the project height is 47 feet. However, what the developer has been claiming as the project's height is in fact only partial information. Essentially, they've misled the city by claiming that the whole development was only 35 feet high, not just the rear portion. This also means the 3 letters of support included by the developer have to be discounted because they were similarly misled. Fourth, adjustments being sought by the developer are not compliant with the Kotler decision, and in fact they fall short of what is required for variances under it. The exceptions and adjustments sought by the developer actually in reality variances to the SNAP per Kotler, and the attempt to circumvent SNAP violates the proper process with no benefit to the city. Kotler decision clearly states that variances from the applicable zoning can be only granted because of special circumstances, including size, shape, topography, location, and surroundings, where the strict application of the zoning would deprive the property of privileges enjoyed by the other properties in the vicinity. There are none. And under Kotler, to be entitled to hardship variance, the circumstances would have to originate from factors beyond the landowner's control. Again, bluntly, this is not the case. There are no special circumstances that apply. Wanting to make the most money off your development is not a special circumstance. They purchased the property knowing exactly what the zoning was. There are no unique hardships, exceptional circumstances associated. For the Class 32 exemption to be considered, there would have to be no cumulative impact or historical impact on the historical resource. We can see both are in fact at play here. So the choice is between supporting the nomination and for the World Heritage Site or another SLS. I think both parties can win by simply following the code and working within the existing law. So that we ask that you reject the applicant, support the appeal, and both sides will move towards a reasonable project that can be constructed. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn now to the applicant, Paul Gary. Paul Gary, you're the representative. Sure, what's your preference?
Kevin McDonald first, that's me, and Paul Gary, and Teresa Grimes to follow.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, and they could either join you in your 5 minutes, or you could take the 5 minutes and they have 1 minute each.
I don't think we'll need all of it. I'll do my
Okay.
best to stay within the time. For the record, Kevin McDonald of the law firm Jeffer, Mangles, Butler, and Mitchell, representing the applicant here today. Chair Weezar, members of the Plum Committee, good afternoon. We're here to demonstrate before you that the appeal has absolutely no merit. First of all, the written appeal, as well as the oral presentation here today, was dealing 80 to 90% with the zoning administrator's cases, which, as staff has correctly pointed out, is not before you today. The only appeal left here is the appeal of the vesting tentative tract map, which is the appellant's reason for appealing according to the filing. However, in both the written and the oral presentation have presented absolutely no arguments against the validity of the vesting tentative tract map. To suffice the findings that were made by the advisory agency and that were upheld later by the Area Planning Commission were thoroughly vetted in those public hearings, thoroughly laid out in the written decisions, and again, are simply moot here because there's no further appeals available under the ZA cases. As far as CEQA is concerned, a Class 32 categorical exemption for an infill development is appropriate here. This is a highly developed urbanized area. There are no exceptions to a categorical exemption that would apply here, so the categorical 32 exemption is appropriate. Mr. Gary and Ms. Grimes can fill in because the only other arguments that had any weight here was the significance of the historic resource across Hollywood Boulevard, and as they will explain, there is no impact to those resources. So I'd left over 3 minutes. I hope you hold that time.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Teresa Grimes, not Mr. Gary. I'm a principal architectural historian at GPA Consulting.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Teresa Grimes,
Okay.
GPA Consulting, architectural historian. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that such a modestly scaled project would have any effect on the eligibility of the Hollyhock House as a World Heritage Site. Furthermore, the issue is rather moot because the nomination is in permanent limbo. The U.S. is no longer eligible to make nominations because we stopped paying our dues to Unesco. Even if that were not the case, the threshold for impacts on historical resources, according to CEQA, would be that the proposed project would have to have such a profound impact on the setting of the Hollyhock House that it would no longer remain eligible for listing under national, state, or local landmark programs. That wouldn't be the case. As the previous speaker already mentioned, including the staff as well, the setting of the area is already characterized by buildings from a variety of periods of time, types of construction, and styles as well, including a major hospital. The proposed building would just merely blend in with the urban landscape and would not even be visible from the Hollyhock House. Therefore, I recommend that you deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Gary? Okay. That now, thank you. Good. Abraham Sogomanian? Emma Howard, Meg Greenfield?
So, yeah, you can't ask for a Class 32 exemption if you're seeking deviations from the existing rules and regulations which are not consistent with the underlying code. You can't ask for a Class 32 exemption if you're impacting a historical resource. We can't just ignore CEQA. Those 3 letters of recommendation were based on a 36-foot height promise. That 36 feet is only at the top of the hill. The developer repeatedly tried to convince me, as he did the other organizations, that it's only 36 feet. It's not true. When you're standing on Hollywood Boulevard, which is something he reluctantly wanted to admit, when you're standing on Hollywood Boulevard, it's 47 feet high. This has a tremendous problem because the precedent that was set with the 4900, which I repeatedly asked you guys not to approve, at 65 feet. Now with the 65 feet there, the 47 feet here, the 75 feet at 48 Hollywood Boulevard, we're creating a tunnel much similar to the Orsini tunnel that exists here between Figueroa and Grand on Sunset Boulevard. The problem difference is that Sunset is 7 lanes wide. This is only 5. The cumulative impact of this is going to be horrendous for the neighborhood. That's a lie that the man who said that the area is highly developed
you know very well there is no development across Barsdale Park, nothing, zero. So to stand up here and to mislead you and deceive you and say it's a highly developed area,
Thank you.
it's a lie.
Okay,
Please
thank you.
don't allow anything above 30 feet.
Thank you. Emma Howard?
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Emma Howard. I'm senior planner for Councilmember Rue, Council District 4. And Meg Greenfield is our planning deputy. She was signing in just in case I couldn't make it.
Oh, okay.
So she probably won't speak. I'm here today to speak on item 11. The proposed project was supported by the staff of the Barnesdale Art Park Foundation, the Los Feliz Neighborhood Council, and the Los Feliz Improvement Association. It is a small lot subdivision of 18 lots. It has been reviewed at the advisory agency and again at the Central Los Angeles Area Planning Commission. It was found to have no view impacts to Barnesdale Park, and our office has spoken on the record as supportive of the project multiple times. We remain supportive of this project and would like to request that you deny the appeal and sustain the determinations of this Area Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. So to our staff, do we, on the, again, is the project consistent with the Vermont Western specific plan?
This is Noricho with City Planning. With the approval of the ZA case, the project is consistent with the specific plan as well as the underlying code zoning designation.
Okay, and the approved adjustment that exceeds 10% total height, there's a claim in the appellant, the appellant is saying that's an unauthorized variance and the proper procedure was not used. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Nuri with City Planning? No. So the code allows a less than 10% increase in the height limits of the specific plan and a less than 20% increase for the height limits per the underlying zone. So the adjustment requests the applicant requested are actually within within what's allowed by the code, and a specific plan exception and a variance are not required for this project.
Okay. And so procedurally, the CPC sustained the Deputy Advisory Agency's determination, and then it was appealed here. Okay. Any questions? No. Based on the comments by CD4 and the record, we'll move to deny the appeal and sustain the determination of the Central Los Angeles APC in approving the track map and Class 32 exemption for the project. Anything else, Mr. Mejia?
You said the class 32, so adopt the categorical exemption and the CEQA findings.
That, yeah, we'll incorporate that into the motion. Thank you. Any other, any comments on that? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. I believe that brings us to public comment, general public comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We'll call general public comment to order. Alexandra Kondrak. Alexandra? Right here. Herman, then Doug Haynes, and then Yvonne.
So as a community member and advocate on housing and relocation fees, I urge you to find a remedy to not allow the city's building and safety to threaten and create a hostile environment that creates families to have hateful speech, to come in here and criticize white nigger politicians for their own steps to take to ensure that their housing, they're affordable and providable at all matters. And once again, as a reminder regarding Mitchell Farrell and his sincerely beloved friend, Miss Jocelyn E. Duarte, the executive cunt who represents the Salvadorian American Leadership and Educational Fund, 42 USC grants me permission to state for the record, fuck you, you wetback bitch, and stop making up lies.
Doug Haynes.
Hi, Doug Haynes. It's hard for me to follow that. I was here earlier in August when I spoke about the fact that I have in place CEQA appeals and they're not being heard, and the planning department is issuing clearances so permits can be issued and construction can begin. And I wanted to bring to your attention, also you had mentioned, Councilman Weezer, that I should speak to your assistant, Sean. I sent twice the information about the particular matter. I called him twice, and then I finally was able to corner him, and I asked, what is the status, so that you can relay to the council member the concerns and how this can proceed. And he denied even receiving anything. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do in order to have my CEQA appeals actually heard. So,
My staff here will talk to you right now to see if we could
Okay.
get
so
that
on
done.
that, and if I may,
Talk to him afterwards.
if I had a pause for a second there, I
Yes.
look forward to speaking to him. I've spoken before the commission on this. You have a proposed ordinance that would stay any issuance of clearances while the CEQA appeal is in place. It is an entirely unwritten policy. There is nothing that's in stone. It's a ridiculous policy that denies process. Last week on another appeal, this beautiful 1916 duplex was demolished. It should have been preserved. I never had a chance to bring it up. When we talk about CEQA abuse, it's an abuse of the planning department to deny appellants their due process. It's an abuse of the city to deny people an opportunity to speak before you.
Thank you.
And I have to exhaust my administrative remedies in order to proceed on these matters.
Thank
So
you.
I look forward to talking to your assistant, and hopefully I can have some remedy to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne? Michelle Autry?
Yes, I'm still a woman. It's Michelle, Yvonne, Michelle Autry, right? No schizo and no alter egos. Yvonne, Michelle Autry, not Mitchell. So you should know that by now. I want to, for the record, for any future construction, I think that the priority should be given to veterans. And for any on-site managers, we do not need trainers, overseers, or handlers that are paid and commissioned to experiment on low-income residents, single black women, or anyone else that you have put in the trash. Again, women like me have been called distractions because men look at us in lieu of the white female and Latina, and in justifying this abuse, sexual harassment by CIA and other government officials, right, in their ritual, have been using housing in surveilling us, and I object to any future funding in allocating rooms for people that are using or creating these CIA sex torture, sex slave environments, right? I'm not the only one exposing this, and make more housing for the veterans.
Okay,
right?
thank you.
What type of country is
Thank
not
you.
providing for the veterans?
Thank you.
How much money do you make?
That concludes our meeting.
Give
Thank you
some
very
to
much.
people like the veterans and homeless.
Thank
and,
you.
Yeah, and stop murdering black women,